most insurance agents who make it in the business, in the life insurance business, have this. They're CLUs. Okay. So there are 5 core courses plus 3 elective courses. So you have 8 courses, and you have to take 8 exams. Each of them have 100 questions, and they last 2 hours. Okay? And these are the courses. Fundamentals of Insurance Planning. I've already taken that one. I'm not working on CLU, I'm working on CFP. Individual life insurance, and we're going to cover life insurance in this class. Okay? Law, life insurance law. You've got to know the rules and regulations that relate to what you're doing. Fundamentals of estate planning. Now, typically, you would use a tax attorney to do your estate planning. But tax attorneys and insurance agents work together to help plan your estate. Okay? The purpose of estate, there are 2 purposes of estate planning. One is make sure that your money goes where you want it to go after you die. That's a biggie. The second part of it is to minimize the amount of estate tax that you pay. Okay? Now, as it relates to Donald Trump's tax returns, it was funny because Paul Love, who's a tax attorney here in town, said when I took my first tax course, the professor started by quoting a Supreme Court justice who said that American taxpayers are obligated to minimize their tax liability. They are obligated to minimize their tax liability. When I took my first tax course in 1986, I had a tax attorney, CPA, who was on the tax commission for the state of Arkansas, and he quoted that Supreme Court justice. So anybody who wants to criticize Trump for minimizing his taxes, they're wrong. You're just wrong. Okay? If you want to change the rules, then work to change the rules. But you shouldn't criticize anyone, Amazon or anybody else, for following the rules that are out there. You don't like the rules, that's understandable, completely understandable. Change the rules. But don't criticize someone for legitimately and lawfully following the rules. All right. And then, so we have planning for business owners and professionals. There's a Hardy grad who started with Northwestern Mutual. Now he has his own firm, and all he deals with are doctors. Financial planning for doctors, professionals, that's what they're talking about. Accountants, attorneys, and doctors. Okay? And let me tell you, we're not going to get into employee benefits, but retirement plans are really complicated creatures. Okay? All right. Now we have the Chartered Financial Consultant, CHFC. Okay? There are 9 college-level courses for this designation. Okay? And they focus on, you don't have any of this, they focus on financial planning, investing, insurance planning, and retirement planning. It's a lot like CFP, only it's not as difficult. So, what you're trying to do is add skills and information so you can offer this help to your clients and also sell them products to make these things happen. Okay? All right. Then there are courses on planning for different types of clients. Okay? There's a lady in Little Rock who's a wealth manager. She was in the insurance industry for 15 years, and this is her market. Divorcees. And then there's another market for special needs families. So there are a lot of special needs children out there. And these kids, once mom and dad are gone, they're not self-sufficient. Okay? They need oversight. And so there are special needs trusts that can be set up, and there are ways that these children can be taken care of. But you got to plan for it. Okay. All right. Then there's the CPCU. Okay. And there are 4 courses. And again, this is on top of all the licensing work that you do. Okay. You've got to get licensed to sell these products. Once you get licensed, okay, then you start with all this. At some point, my plan is for the finance degree to offer classes that will put you on a track for CFP. So when you take an insurance class at Harding, that will count toward the insurance class that you need for your CFP. We'll cover that in just a minute. Okay. So, risk management, insurance company operations, business law, finance and accounting. Okay. And then you take 3 courses in commercial or personal lines, and then an elective course that covers strategies. So you can see now these courses are not, they're not as detailed as the CFP. Okay, so when you look at all the requirements, it can be done. It can be done. It's not that difficult to get this done. Whoops. Okay, certified investment counselor. Okay, this is primarily for agency owners. Okay, so you can see you have to take these courses, and each course lasts 16 hours, 2 days, 8 and 8. And you take a course on personal lines, which is dealing with individuals, on commercial liability, which inland and ocean. Inland is trucking and railroad. Ocean is ocean transportation. Business auto. My car is in the shop, and I called parking and transportation and said, "Can I rent a car?" And they said, "For what school group are you taking?" I said, "No, it's for me for 3 days." They said, "No, we don't do that because of the liability. You can only use a Harding University vehicle if you're taking a school group somewhere, or if you are making a trip and you can't take your personal car, and it's for Harding University business. For liability purposes, you can't rent a car at Harding." And then umbrella, that's a policy that's in excess of your other liability policies. We talked about that.
You could have just driven around a student every time you drove.
Well, the reason I called them is because it costs like $15 a day. But you know, it's not that much more. Car rental rates have really come down. You can get a decent mid-sized car now for $50 a day. You go to Colorado and rent an SUV, it's going to cost you $150 a day. All right. So you can see liability, property, life and health, and agency management. So that's why this is really for people who want to run their own agency. Okay. All right, and finally we have CFP. That's what I'm working on, and I've got my CFA, which is considered to be the gold standard in the investment business, but this is financial planning. Okay. So if you want to analyze an individual stock or a bond, or if you want to build an investment portfolio, you get your CFA. But if you want to help individuals and families and small businesses with all of their financial planning, you get your CFP. And there are many, many more jobs available for CFPs than there are CFAs. And most of the CFA jobs are in big cities with the bigger companies, and you have to be very well connected to get in. You want to go to Goldman Sachs, you better go to Harvard or MIT and get your MBA or your Master's of Finance there if you even want to have a shot. You can be a 4.0 student at Harding University in finance. If you don't know somebody, you're not getting a job, even if you have a CFA. You're not going to get one of the big CFA jobs. Really hard to do. All right. So, financial planning and insurance, and this is one section, okay? Then there's another section on taxes, then a section on investments, and a section on employee benefits, and I've completed through here. So, I have retirement planning and estate planning left. Okay? So each section involves 1,000 pages of reading, technical reading. It's 1,000 pages each. It takes about, if you work at it, it takes about 4 months. 4 to 5 months if you work at it. There have been times like this one here, it took me a year because I started it, I had to put it down. They handed me a new course and I couldn't get to it. And I finally, a year later, I finally finished and took the exam. Oops. All right. And so you have to take an exam for each of these sections, and then after you finish this, and this is what Harding's going to offer. Okay, we're going to offer several of these. And then when you're finished, then you have to take a comprehensive exam. Now the College for Financial Planning, if you take like 2 courses in addition to this, they give you a master's degree in financial planning, which would be a good thing to have. And again, this is where there are tons of jobs out there for finance majors if you get a CFP. Okay? Lots of doors open for you. That's why I want to do this. Okay? Because we're not situated to get you guys CFA jobs, but we can get you CFP jobs. Okay? Banks want CFPs, insurance companies want CFPs, mutual fund companies want CFPs, wealth management firms want CFPs. Okay? And you can go out on your own with a CFP and have your own practice. Okay? All right. Okay, let's shift into settling claims. Okay? So something happens and a client contacts the insurance company and says, this has happened, you owe me. Okay? So what are the objectives? Okay? First, verify that a loss that has occurred is actually covered. Okay, so you have to know, as the insurance company, you have to know the details of the loss. What happened? When did it happen? How did it happen? Okay. Then, as an underwriter, you go back to the policy and make sure that the property that was damaged or the life that was damaged is actually covered. Okay? So make sure that loss is included in the policy. You also have to determine what the value of the loss is. The client says, that's a $100,000 loss. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Okay? You want to make sure that once the value and the coverage are verified, that the claims are paid quickly, because that's your reputation as an insurance company. You do not want people bad-mouthing you. Okay? Okay? So, you don't want to, and we'll talk about unfair practices, you don't want to have unfair practices, but you don't want to just roll over every time because there's so much fraud in the insurance industry. A friend of mine in the property casualty business said that 1/3 of your premium is due to fraud. If we could eliminate fraud, your premium would go down by 1/3. That's how much fraud happens in the property casualty business. People lie. All right. Make sure that you reach out to a person who's had a loss and say, what can I do for you? This is what our company offers. Okay? So, When I was in Texas, visiting a client, rented a car in San Antonio and drove to Kerrville, and I hit a deer. Okay? It was hysterical because my client lives in hill country, and he owns and operates an exotic deer hunting ranch. And they have all kinds of animals on that ranch. And I called him and I said, I'm about an hour away. And he said, the sun's going down, turn your bright lights on, and watch out for deer. They're everywhere. And about 5 minutes later, I saw a deer running on the right side of the car, and then it turned away. And I thought, well, that's good. Well, that deer just changed its mind and did a 180 and jumped right in front of me. Bam! Going 75 miles an hour. Has anybody ever hit a deer?
No,
it's like hitting a tree.
Yeah.
It's not like hitting a little dog. I mean, it's like hitting a wall. The airbags went off the whole 9 yards, man. I took the front end of that car off. It was 5 minutes after he told me, watch out for deer. So my first thought was, call my insurance agent. So I called my insurance agent. I said, I'm halfway between San Antonio and Kerrville on Highway 10, going northwest, and I just hit a deer. And here's what he said. What should he have said? What's the first thing my insurance agent of 20 years should have said?
Are you okay?
Are you okay? That's not what he said. That's not what he said. He said, here's an 800 number. They'll take care of you. And I fired him like 2 days later. Yeah. And he said, why are you moving? I said, I've been with you for 20 years. You've never once said thank you. You've never taken me to lunch. I get these nonsensical computer-printed birthday cards from you once a year. I'm in the financial services industry. Every single time I talk to a client or communicate with a client, I say, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to work with you. You've never said that to me. He goes, what do you want from me? I said, I want you to say that I'm important to you. And he said, well, you're important in my business. I said, no, we're done. That's what he said. You're important in my business. I said, you got too big for your britches. You're a former coach. You never thought you'd make it. You're making more money than you ever thought, and you're too big for your britches. And you just lost a client. And I see him around sometimes. He called me 6 months ago and said, hey, just want you to know that our company just cut the homeowners' rates by 25%. You know what I said to him? I don't care if they cut it 75%. I'm never doing business with you again. I'm sorry you feel that way. And I said, I'm sorry you treated me and made me feel that way. And I still see him around. That's the way it is. Schmuck. I don't care how successful you become. You're not better than other people. Okay? And that's a hard thing. When you get to be real successful, you start thinking you're better than other people. It's human nature. What you don't realize is that the ice that you're walking on is about that thin. You don't realize it until something bad happens. And something bad, if God wants to save you, then something bad is going to happen to you. You're going to get that phone call that you have cancer or that your dad just had a heart attack. And the next time you look in the mirror, you won't be thinking, look how great I am. I promise you, God has a way of tugging you right back into reality. All right, there are laws that prohibit unfair claims practices, such as refusing to pay claims without conducting a reasonable investigation. There was a movie, the same, John Grisham. He did the firm, well, he also did the client. And the client was about a health insurance company that was selling a policy to low-end customers. And what they found was every claim that was ever submitted was rejected. Okay? That was their strategy. Okay? Because what they wanted to do, they knew that most of the low-end people that they were dealing with either didn't know or didn't have the money to hire an attorney. And this one family said, we're fighting this. And they sued, they won, they put the company out of business. Okay? And that's what the movie was about. You can't just say no. You have got to conduct an investigation, and you have to have a reason, a darn good reason to say no. Okay? Some companies will say, we'll give you this much, go away. And it's not what they need. Okay? So once again, in both cases, they're saying, if you want your money, you're going to have to sue us. And that scares a lot of people off. And my insurance company, I had to pay the deductible, and then, which was, I think it was $500 or $600. But then they sent me a bill for like $2,200 for business interruption insurance. And I got it, and I called, and I said, I'm not paying this. And if you ask me again, then you'll hear from my attorney, and he'll tell you that I'm not paying this. And they said, okay. That was the end of it. Because I wasn't going to pay it. No, I wasn't going to pay $2,200 for hitting the deer. All right. So then they send out a claims adjuster. And I've had experience with this. Okay. For small claims, the insurance agent can settle it up. Okay? You call the agent, say, man, my Rolex Submariner or Submariner, however you say that, watch, which is covered, or I might have a separate schedule on my homeowners for it, and it's a $1,400 watch, and it's been stolen. So the agent comes out and says, show me a picture of it. You show him a picture. Show me a bill of sale for it. Okay? Sign an affidavit that swears that this is not intentional, that it has been stolen, and that if you recover it, you'll let us know. And you do all that, and they'll say, okay, I'll file the claim. Now the deductible on it's $500. It's an $1,800 watch. Your rates may go up because you're filing a claim, you know, because we really don't want to mess with this nonsense. But that's why you have the insurance. Okay? So you'll get a check for $1,300, and you get you a new watch if you want. Or you don't have to. You can say, take the money. Oops. All right, so a company adjuster is usually a salaried employee who will investigate the claim, determine the amount of loss, and arrange for payment. We had a leak. We had a line, a water line running into our refrigerator leaked, and it ruined our floor and our subfloor. And they sent a guy out the next day. First they sent a company out and we disconnected the refrigerator immediately. And then they sent a guy out to pull up the floor and put fans on it to try to dry out the subfloor. And then 2 days later they sent the adjuster out. And meanwhile, the guy they sent out to do the initial work, he gave us an estimate of the cost of repairing. So what kind of floor do you want to put in? So we looked, and he gave us an estimate, and then they sent a claim adjuster out, State Farm. And he looked, and he did all this measuring,